All right, let's go. So, welcome to episode number 9 of eCom Raw Reality, where we discuss all things eCom, e-commerce, Shopify stores. And in this one, I want to talk about the difference between new customers and returning customers. And as always, we'll break this video down in 3 parts. So, we will talk about new customers, about returning customers, and in terms of the third point, I would want us to look at the holistic part, meaning how does each one affect the other, and also talk about subscriptions, because nowadays 2025, right, it's the end of March 2025 right now, and subscriptions are the buzz. I mean, they are the buzz for a while now, but almost everything is trying to get you on a subscription. And just as a fun fact, recently I know there are split payments for ordering a burrito. I think DoorDash was the one that made this recently, and it's pretty crazy, right? But it's all about having some kind of installments and having some kind of debt, which we know is actually really helpful in many cases if you want to grow fast, right? Because you can buy more before you can afford it. However, even though buying more before you can afford it applies in ecom as well, let's talk about the 3 things. And first of all, if you wonder why I wear these glasses right now, it's just because I have an eye allergy, so lights are pretty distracting. So first of all, let's talk about new customers, because any business out there in ecom has to acquire new customers. That's the name of the game. You can't have returning customers if you don't acquire new ones. And that's the name of the game in the beginning. And fortunately, it is slightly easier in the beginning to acquire new customers. And let me tell you why. Because if you're selling something, it could be some kind of hourglass, let's say, right? Or a mouse, whatever you have around you. Just look around you. Look around you and think of it like this. Someone out there wants that. Not everyone wants it, but someone wants it. They want it really bad. Maybe exactly at this point in time, they are thinking about it, right? It's just like with phases in life. As a teenager, you're thinking just about maybe girls and whatever. As a young adult, you're thinking about money, cars, whatever. Then as a mature adult, let's say, you're thinking about totally different things, such as maybe running, being healthy, and so on. So different things, right? And that's the beauty with online e-commerce. The fact that in the beginning it is slightly easier to get at least a few people who resonate with your product, whatever it is, right? It could be some kind of anime stuff, right? Which is very niche. Although, for example, if we talk about Dragon Ball and all of those popular ones, of course, they're not very niche. Like, they are making millions, billions in terms of revenue. However, if you are speaking with a smaller audience that wants a specific thing, let's say you talk with people in Germany who want to make money by selling online services in the, let's say, content short form, or for YouTube, let's say, content for YouTube, right? Just in the German market, and just, let's say, for males between 25 to 30 who talk about personal finance. So that's very specific, right? And that's the same in e-commerce. You can usually find, or at least Meta is able to find your ideal customers pretty easily if you have the right ad and so on. So acquiring those first few customers is pretty easy. However, the more you try to expand, that's where it becomes more difficult. And with that, I guess we can actually switch to talking about returning customers, because with returning customers, the thing is that it's basically someone who already bought from you, right? They bought, let's say, a can of soda, a pack of sodas, or let's say some kind of consumable or a t-shirt, anything, right? They pay maybe $50 and the cost to acquire them was maybe $30, right? So you might have break even there, maybe not even a profit. But the thing is, you paid $30 to acquire them. They spend $50. However, if they spend one more time with you, $50, that's $100, even though the initial cost to acquire that customers initial cost to acquire that customer was $40. So this is where the math does make sense, right? Because if you sell someone just once, it's harder to make a profit. But if you sell someone again and again and again, and this comes into the subscription part, which we'll talk in a second here in the third part of the video. But the thing with returning customers is that you will get someone who might be loyal for life, right? I mean, think of it as a marriage. You'll get, ideally, enough benefits over time. And in the case of e-commerce, it means you'll get a customer that will buy again and again and again and again, new products, new drops, whatever you put out there, or almost whatever, right? And as an example, I don't think I have right now besides me any product, but for example, I buy from a supplement brand fairly often, actually around 2 supplement brands nowadays. And I'm pretty sure that they might have taken them a while to convince me in the beginning, but that was like 10 years ago, or honestly like 15 years ago, you know, that's how you know you're old. But since I was a teenager, that's when I think I initially saw that product. And of course it seemed really expensive back then because of my lack of income, as almost everyone at that age. And I wasn't necessarily born in some kind of rich family or anything, so I couldn't really afford it. And I've always seen protein as, let's say, some kind of luxury, right? So it was slightly harder to get into the ecosystem of that brand. But once I got in there, over the years, I bought many times. I can't even say how many times because I'm not even sure. It's probably maybe over 100 at this point. Not sure if, probably, because if you make around 1 order a month, or maybe 2 sometimes, it could have been around 100 orders, right? And if each one was around $50 to $100, I mean, the most recent one was $200 actually. So I think my AOV, my lifetime value actually, is probably around 10K plus at this point. So they could have spent probably $500, $1,000 just to acquire myself, right? And in the long run, it would have still made sense for them. It would still be profitable. I don't know their margins and so on, but most likely it would be profitable at a 10 ROAS, right? And also high volume. So that's the beauty with returning customers. And how you do it? Well, after you get someone, you just need to make sure that those first few touch points are good and the product is also good. Because if the product is not good, and I was just checking here, I got some kind of email, but not important, of course. We're shooting. And the main thing is that you need to be in front of that customer with some emails in the beginning. And of course, make sure that product is decent. If it's not, I mean, it's going to be hard to get a repeat customer. That's why ideally, if you have a good product and you work on having a good product, then you should try to market it as hard as possible, because you know, once someone actually gets their hands on it, they will stay. They will stay for a very long time. And let's talk about the third part, because you have new customers, returning customers, and this is where it's a balance, because sometimes, or actually most of the time, it will be harder and harder to acquire new customers. Unless you do some kind of crazy collab, unless you try new angles, it will be harder and harder to get more people who are not exactly in tune with your brand, right? Because for example, I'm not in tune with, let's say, Prada and stuff like that, right? But does that mean that I will never buy from them? Not really, not really. It depends on the use case, right? I might not buy for me, but if they have convincing marketing that actually convinces, let's say, the woman, right, which would be maybe a partner in life, to get the man to buy it for her, I mean, that could work, right? So that's how you actually get someone to buy, even if they are not your ideal customer. It's the gifting angle. That's one very popular one in eCom, and we won't get into creatives right now and angles and so on, but it's more so about the data side and trying to understand what a new customer is, or what's their value for the business. Because in platforms like Triple Well, which of course you can also see on your phone or on dashboard, and there are also many others. I mean, we have Norbeam, and even Shopify, if you know how to actually read the data in analytics, it will actually show you how much is from new customers and how much is from returning, or you can even use sheets. Even to this day, I still use sheets. Of course, ideally it's either automated or you have someone else doing them, because otherwise it's like going to take you too much time to fill the data daily and so on. But you need to look at what's the ROAS eventually on new customers, and then what's the ROAS on returning customers, and you have to see what's the split between them. Because if you pay 10k a month on paid ads, right? And this is something that I have to talk about with many clients all the time: how much we're spending and how many are new customers, how much we're actually profiting from new customers. Sometimes we are profiting from new customers, but we know the lifetime value is there, or we know we get them on a subscription, and then it doesn't even matter if we pay $60, $100 sometimes for them, because we know they'll spend 250, 300, right? So the MER, the ROAS for them is, let's say, free over a 3 month, 6 month, 1 year period. And that's how the big become bigger, the rich become richer. You have to take that hit in the beginning sometimes and be aware that it's a very long game. And in most cases, it is a long game. That's how we should ideally think. If you like to think in the short term, I mean, you can, but no one that we can look at and admire is actually playing short term games. Because basically that means that you would play a game, but then once it doesn't work out, then you're out of the game. It's game over, it's exit. Or think of it as in life, you die, right? Is that what you want? Not really. So that's why long-term games and thinking long-term is usually helpful, even in relationships, even when you think about your retirement, even if you think about anything almost. It's about thinking long-term, but also taking action as if you might die tomorrow, right? I think that's the best approach. And I think most people actually who get to a certain level get to that type of mindset, because it's just the healthiest. It keeps you in an urgency state in the short term to make sure that you take action. You are aware that time is finite and you need to take care of it, but also think long term, because as you can see with new customers, with returning customers, it's about a long game. And also think of it like this: the economy is not always stable, so you might get better results at times and worse results at times. So as much as I would like right now in March, right? What day is it? It's March 7th, actually no, 25th right now. And on March 25th, it's pretty hard to get new customers for many brands that are already making 100k, 500k, 1 million, maybe 10 million a month, right? It's harder because you've already acquired the easiest customers out there, right? So that's why even on my end, I'm aware, and I talked with my clients in most cases, that we need to be aware of what's the reality. I mean, let's just take a step back, look at the whole picture, and be aware that we can't have the same numbers in 2023 or in 2025 as in 2023, in 2025 as in 2024, considering that we might also be spending double, triple, 5 times the money, right? So you always need to look at different variables, and I would say this is one of the still most important things, just knowing how to read data and then also knowing what to do about it, right? Because you have some people out there who are amazing at reading data. For example, I'm not the best at reading data, at analyzing data, at coming up with conclusions, at communicating. I'm honestly not in the probably top 5 or 10% at anything almost. However, I do believe that I'm probably in the top maybe 20% at 3 or 4, 5 things. And that overall, as let's say, in terms of skill sets, does bring me to maybe a 1%, just because of the multitude of skills and the depth in all of them, right? So that's why ideally you do understand as many things as possible in a business. You do want to specialize, just like I specialize, let's say, to some extent on paid media mostly. But even paid media, it's all about, to some extent, marketing, human psychology. So those are some skills that you also need to know. However, I don't want to make this video way too long. So to make a short recap here, we talked about new customers, returning customers, and also the lifetime value, the subscription part, and being aware that it's about balancing the two. There's no right or wrong. You never want to stop getting new customers, but you also don't want to not sell to your returning customers, because those are actually the easiest to convince again to some extent. So always need to make sure that we take the right decisions. And with that being said, time to do some work now. And if you enjoyed this, as always, you can leave a like, and until next time, peace out.